You started.
Yes.
Alex got COVID.
He did. So he won't be here today.
We're two-manning it today on this special episode of... I don't remember the name.
Drop of a Hat podcast.
Yeah, that's right. and it's because our special boy, who is went and got COVID.
Because he didn't get vaccines like he was supposed to.
Oh wait, what was that? He didn't get a vaccine? Oh, what's a vaccine?
No, he didn't know exactly what it was either.
The problem with Alex is
He is. Well, the thing is, like 5 or 6 months ago, we kept saying, "Hey, it's free. Get it.
It's free.
Please get it. Please." No, I'm not gonna get it. So I think at first he was joking about not getting it.
You two are very similar people.
Yes.
You're both very stubborn.
Yes. I
But the
agree.
difference between you and Alex is you're stubborn, but you're smart. He's stubborn, but he's just so fucking stupid. He's an arrogant kind of stupid. Like, he's so sure that he's right about things, but he's wrong about everything. I mean, just the quintessential reason.
I can agree with that, yeah.
I think it's pretty true. He's a dumb guy.
He's a dumb guy.
He's a very dumb guy.
He's smart in some areas. Like
No.
maybe. No?
He's just dumb. Because his thing about the vaccine, you don't remember this?
Yeah, what is this reason?
He didn't really. He doesn't have a real excuse. He was just being an idiot. But he was like, "Oh, there's a third one, and then a fourth one, and then a fifth one."
It's like the flu shot.
Well, first of all, there's a new flu shot every single year. And second of all, this was like a novel virus that we were expediting these vaccines.
Yes.
So it made sense that as like new variants came up, you would have to like update them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's gonna be additional vaccines. They're all free, but also like from a conspiratorial perspective, what do they have to gain from injecting more vaccines just indefinitely? Is the problem because his problem seemed to be that it seemed like there were going to be an indefinite amount of vaccines.
Well,
What do you gain from that? What is the government gaining from indefinitely vaccinating us? It was like the weird conspiracy theories about masks. Like they're muzzling us. Like no, you can still talk.
Well, it's also the government's kind of paying for the vaccines because it's free for if you have
They're
health
paying all those
insurance.
private companies. They're
Yeah.
subsidizing it.
Because it's really important. That's why, because a lot of people are dying from it.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous. He didn't really have an excuse. I think he likes the idea of being conservative or something. I don't know what it really is. Just
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe he likes to think that he votes Republican. He doesn't vote. Or he shouldn't vote. A person like Alex shouldn't vote because he doesn't give a shit about anything. So why vote? But he likes to think he likes Republicans more than Democrats. But he doesn't really like pay attention to much of anything.
He kind of just votes like whatever's most entertaining to him, right? Pretty
No,
much.
he just votes.
He
Republican.
doesn't?
I don't know what the fuck he votes for. I think he has stopped voting. Thank God.
Oh.
But just like he doesn't really pay attention to much. But that's fine. I don't give a shit if you're like just disinterested in like politics or whatever. But the idea that you're gonna whatever like inform your decisions based on the aesthetic of like the temperament of being conservative, which is really I guess he finds appealing somewhat. I don't know. There's no way to actually ascertain what is going on in that thing's brain.
That thing's brain. He's a thing now.
He is he is. We know that. What's this wavelength you think you got popped up?
I don't know. He keeps doing that.
Just exit
Something
out.
with like the auto update that's like wrong or something.
We don't know if he's symptomatic.
We have no idea. Nope.
I'm hoping he is. I'm hoping he's sitting there face in bed like my life is ruined.
Clearly,
I hope he loses a sense of taste forever. That'd be so clutch.
Clearly, yesterday at like what 6:21, he said I have COVID. The first text I gave was, "Who gave you the cooties?" And then you sent him like a laughing like image.
I sent him a stock image of some woman pointing at the camera and laughing.
That was my first reaction. We made fun of him.
He's like about to die. He's in the fucking ER. If he's in the ER, I'm going in and I'm dancing on his grave.
God.
Get fucked, loser. We just could have gotten the vaccine. You have all three. I have all three.
We don't have the fourth one. Did you get the fourth one?
You don't really have to. My parents only got it because they had to go out of the country.
No.
But I don't think the fourth one is all that necessary, at least not yet. I don't know, they've also kind of shifted away from the vaccination rhetoric.
How?
Yeah, now they're trying to like get people on like, well, they haven't increased testing, but they are trying to increase like the antivirals or whatever, the medication that you can take early on to mitigate the symptoms.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I guess just to reduce hospital population, but if you're not doing that with an increase in testing, then people aren't going to know they have it until it's too late. Because it only really works early on when you have it. So if you test early, you can start using those treatments and they'll help.
I mean, that's why COVID is so kind of like deadly. It's like it's very like a delayed thing.
Yeah.
You get the symptoms like after the fact.
And then you've already spread it to a bunch of people without knowing.
Which is why it was like a pandemic.
Yeah, but, you know, cool thing, it doesn't matter. Alex may have had it last week. Who gives? We're triple vax, we got nothing.
I mean, we interact with clients all the time, both of us.
Well, that was the thing, right?
Yeah, it's funny. He hasn't been getting it, but we actually go out more. He like stays in most of. I assume that he stays in most of the day. I don't know.
He goes places, I guess, but we're interacting with way more people because you're always interacting with clients all day, and I'm going to court most of the time. So I'm around different people all the time, and yet we haven't gotten it. Curious as to why that may be. Who knows?
I literally had a guy like coughing like in the office like right next to me, and I still didn't get it. So.
Yeah, he straight up had COVID, and you didn't get it.
I mean, the thing is that guy who got sick, who was right next to my office, he was like similar. Where like, oh, I don't have any vaccines because I trust my natural immune system.
Yeah, that worked out real well for him, didn't it? Fucking idiot, dumbass motherfucker. I mean, not to make fun too much, but there are a lot of people who did that. They trust their own immune system. Fucking fat ass sloppy 55-year-old dudes, and they died. They got COVID and they just would die. And it's like it's sad, but at the same time, like.
I know,
fucking idiots.
Yeah.
It's still sad. In Alex's case, it would not be sad. He actually dies right to delete this whole thing.
I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah, whatever. Who gives a shit about him?
I don't know. I still just remember my former coworker because he was bragging because like, he claimed that he was the only one not to get sick in the office. You know, I haven't gotten sick.
Yeah.
Nor my boss, nor the intern at that time. And like he was bragging, and then like, about like 3 days later, he gets sick.
Get fucked,
he gets sick. It was like the most like ironic thing.
He just talks so much shit. And that was him. He was like, Alex was like, I haven't gotten it. I'm not getting that vaccine. I haven't gotten it.
He actually did keep emphasizing that. Yeah.
I haven't gotten it. I haven't going anywhere. I haven't gotten the vaccine. Well, now you got it all up in you now.
Yep.
I want pictures.
Just watch he has like a full sentence, so he loses all the sense of taste.
Oh, he would kill himself.
Yeah.
Next time we see him, we're like, where do you want to go eat? And he just has his hands. Doesn't even matter anymore.
It's all over.
He's just eating food out of a bag. Having his little food smoothies, nothing matters anymore. I can't taste food. My dad would kill himself if he couldn't taste food anymore.
My dad would too, yeah.
I'll tell you what my mom told me on the phone. I asked her like how the trip was going, and she was like, I sleep and then I eat, and then I sleep and then I eat. My dad was just dragging them to a bunch of different restaurants.
That's funny.
And apparently she was bitching about the food to my sister too. She was sending like a picture and be like, this sucks. So, I'm sure they went to some good places, but she really, I think, wanted to stay in Istanbul a lot longer.
Oh, I see.
Where's COVID spreading more, Pakistan or Turkey?
You told me yes?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Wherever it is, we're sending Alex there again as soon as it gets better.
I mean, he's immune for 2 months.
He's inoculated.
Yeah.
It's a natural immunity. I don't know how effective natural immunities are.
Probably not that much, honestly.
I don't know. I was like, right after I got COVID during, was it the Delta surge?
Yes.
So, I was only double vax, and they had recommended the triple vax for like a month or 2 months, and I still hadn't gotten it, which was stupid on my part. And then I got COVID, and I was out for about a week. I think it took about a week.
I mean, you were thinking about getting a third shot. You just haven't
I just hadn't done it yet.
You just didn't get it, and you haven't got it before that.
And I was still wearing masks at that time too.
Yeah.
But I was only double vax. I wasn't triple, and it was like those 2 vaccines had worn off by then. It wasn't effective anymore. So then I went, as soon as I healed over, I didn't sit there and be like, these natural immunities got for 2 months. I went and got the little third stab.
Yeah.
I went straight up into Walgreens. I said, stab me. Stab me. And they did.
You didn't get any symptoms from it, did you, right? The third one?
I never got, the only symptoms I got from the vaccine is I think after the second one, I was a little sore.
That's normal for
a little like muscle soreness.
By symptoms I meant like, like...
Nah, nothing, because you did.
Yeah. It was the only one I actually got like a fever from. It was like a flash fever for a night though.
Yeah.
But...
I remember, I think you were online that night too. You were
I was playing Apex.
Like, I don't feel this does not feel so good.
No, I don't think I told you. Was it like I think like after I got off, I felt like kind of cold, which is probably a really bad sign.
You're a cold person generally. Very unemotional.
I felt cold. I was like, that's not good. It's actually like really hot outside too.
And then it kicked you in the
Yeah.
night? Yeah. You didn't have work the next day though, did you?
No.
Because you haven't missed any work, I don't think, for sickness.
Oh. I missed for half a day. I had like this like flash up cold.
Oh, that's right, you did leave.
Remember, like I randomly texted you. I think you were like still at school. I was like, hey, you want to play Apex?
I was like, I'm in criminal law. I was someone who didn't really skip much in law school. I think, I don't think I missed anything for sickness, because when I got COVID, we were on winter break.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think I ever missed any classes during the year for sickness. For other reasons, maybe. But I didn't skip
For
that
other
much.
reasons.
Yeah. Brahim.
Just
He's
like-
basically a part-time student.
You just played like what Elden Ring for most of it, right? It was like during what exam period or something, right?
No. He skipped all the time.
He's got all the time and wasn't into
He
that.
was barely ever there. And it's funny, yeah, because I would I was taking notes on my laptop or whatever, and I have Steam on my laptop. And so we'd be there in like the middle of property. We're getting our little lecture, and I was seeing the little corner pop up like, Brahim is playing Elden Ring, or he's playing like Civ 6. I'm like, nice. That was actually, no, I would figure it out like in the morning if I were, before class I would go up to like the library area.
Right.
And I would chill and like do some work before,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when I would see. Because I wouldn't even know if he was coming, I was just assume he's coming, and then I would see that and be like, okay, I guess Brahim's not coming.
Nope, I guess not. Nope,
So I'm playing Elden Ring, I guess he's not coming
Nope.
today. So I would go into class and be like, Brahim's not coming. He's not showing up today. I'd already know. What are you doing?
I forgot. I actually forgot to lower the volume for the microphone. Oh well, it's fine.
Now I'm gonna have to adjust it after the fact.
It's probably fine.
You can, can't you adjust it when I send you the audio?
I can. Yeah.
Okay, well you deal with it. I don't want to deal with this.
I ain't not too bad. Alright, I can lower it now though.
It's peaked a couple times because I think you're a little close.
Yeah.
But who gives a shit? They don't have Alex screaming obscenities into the microphone this week.
No, the thing is, if I lower the volume during mid-recording, we have to.
That's the thing. So just figure it out later.
Okay.
Idiot.
I just
So anyway, Alex, dumb person, idiot.
Yep. Period.
Just the dumbest person we've ever met. And he's gonna be out. He's gonna be out for at least this week.
At least this week, maybe next week, maybe.
I hope we should just kick him off.
Just kick him off on the podcast.
At this point, you get COVID, you're kicked off.
Yep.
But we did actually come with a topic prepared.
We did.
We had a topic, and you know what? I don't think Alex would have contributed much, to be quite honest. Because what we were gonna do is we were gonna be geeks this week and talk about our 3 favorite video games.
Yep.
And all Alex would have done was just be like,
Fallout New Vegas, Bioshock, and Dark Souls.
With that voice.
so he would have just given 3 generic games, which, to be fair, are all good games. But instead we get to hear about like some sort of
Anime weeb shit.
yes. I didn't have to say it. I didn't have to say
I
it.
knew what you were saying.
Well, do you want? Well, we'll go back and forth. We would have had Alex here, but he's not here. But now it's just us, so we can go back and forth. You do one, I'll do one, and we'll go back and forth.
You go first.
I'm going first.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, but how should we? Here's the thing, because I have a rough idea of what I want to talk about.
You don't have to number them. Just kind of talk.
Okay, so it's
about
not
it.
numbered.
No.
Well, then you should know that if I did have to number it, probably the top game would be Kentucky Route Zero.
Okay, I can see
Yeah,
that.
you know Kentucky Route Zero, which actually let me pull up because to describe these games, you must realize.
So I mean, you wrote like an entire blog post about it too.
I wrote an entire blog, brother. I did a project on it in college.
That's true.
and presented it.
Both, yeah. I forgot.
So I had it was around that time actually because I think it was. So the game it's 5 acts. It's a point and click adventure game. Let me pull up the Wikipedia so I can get the. It's got a good description. Yeah, Kentucky Route Zero.
right.
Side scroller point and click adventure game. I love these. This is a genre I'm really starting to love because I've really been enjoying Norco, which is the same genre.
Right.
It follows the narrative of a truck driver named Conway and the strange people he meets as he tries to cross the mysterious Route Zero in Kentucky to make a final delivery for the antiques company for which he works. Sort of basic premise, but it's a magical realist game.
Okay.
And so this Route Zero that he's traveling along to get to 5 Dogwood Drive, that's the address. It takes a lot of twists and turns. You meet a lot of different people. You meet an android.
Oh, wow.
And the literature and childhood class that I took where I did the project actually focused on a niche sort of child character within the cast, Ezra. So that was what the project was about. I was talking about his representation within the game. And I did it was very nerdy because
I mean, I just found it amazing that you did a project.
I did a whole presentation. I spent the entire weekend. I didn't go anywhere that weekend. I spent the entire weekend like doing research on the game.
Wow.
So I was searching up stuff on this, and it was so fun because the reason I didn't want to go anywhere, I was having so much fun researching the game because it was so layered. Some people would be familiar. There's a famous series of essays on the first 3 acts by this German guy. His name was Magnus Hildebrand, and he did a series of essays called Kentucky Fried Zero, where he analyzed some of the more so the aesthetic. So some of like the history, like there's some mining stuff that's shown in the game,
Right.
and so he would like discern some of that the history behind it, and then he would sort of just discuss. These are unlisted now, by the way. Actually, I can't find them anymore.
You can't?
I think maybe the blog you posted them on got deleted or something, or maybe he deleted them.
Oh.
But I remember actually kind of being irritated with them because I found his analysis to be a bit too focused on aesthetic and not enough on thematics. But it was really interesting, especially at the time, because this was like they didn't really fully the acts were released sporadically. So they originally were intending. It's a 3-man crew. They were intending.
Only three people?
Yeah, and one of them
Wow.
was mainly working on the soundtrack, and only two of them did programming, and only one of them wrote. So they originally launched Act 1 back in 2013, and I think they were planning on getting the whole game out in a year. Act 5 released in 2020. So I played somewhere in the middle. I think they had just finished maybe Act 4 when I played. So I played through the game, not even knowing that there were interludes that you can download separately in between the acts. So I just played past the interludes the first time I played it.
But was interludes important for like the story?
Oh yeah, they're really interesting.
Okay.
They give some clarity to some side stuff, and they're really compelling.
Oh, okay.
But I played through it back then, and the reason I got the game initially is because I think I saw it on some Steam recommendations, and I just saw Kentucky, and I saw the aesthetic look cool, and I was like, this looks like maybe a game about the South that isn't stereotypical. So, because I was really into sort of like Southern aesthetic back then, and I thought it was something that was really sort of bastardized and over stereotyped, and so this looked like it was a unique sort of perspective on it.
Yeah.
So I just got excited from the name and the look, and I dove into the game, and it was over a winter break during college, after probably my worst performance.
Yeah, you were worse.
Because the thing about at that point in college, I really was becoming a shithead, and I was slacking off my work, and I was becoming a bit of a slob, and I think in part you could blame that on video games.
I mean, you can't really blame it. I mean, it was kind of just
Blame is me.
first years in colleges, really.
The blame is me. I was being a shithead. But the thing is, I frame it that way because I think as much as video games may have played a role in me being a shithead initially in college, they played like an equal role in turning things around. Because think about the intellectual interest that's Kentucky Route Zero sparked. I mean, I was doing a whole weekend worth of research on this, and reading all these essays and reading up on like the history of these things. It was, I mean, to the point, I did so much research to the point where I discovered that the font that they use for announcing like each act or whatever, it's a font called Podkova. And throughout the game, you'll notice, and I think you can see on my home screen, is actually a scene, one of the opening scenes from the game at Equus Oils. Equus, of course, being Peter Schaffer's play, which is about a horse. And you see the horse there.
I do see it.
And the Kentucky Route Zero thing is a horse. My mom actually did a painting of that.
I do remember
in my
that, which
room.
was really good.
And horses become a recurring motif. The game ends on some horses dying as well. Spoilers, not really. But,
Spoiler, the horse died.
yeah, it is. Yeah. but the font, Podkova, this is how much detail they paid attention. It's some Eastern European language that means horse. And that was the font they chose to use. That's how much they wanted to really hammer in this motif.
How did you find that out somewhere?
I just kept searching stuff, man. I was really into it. I was going through all sorts of forums on every single website because I was really enthralled with the game. I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to do a good job on the project because I liked the game so much, and also because I felt a responsibility. I was a mega nerd. I felt a responsibility to like convey video games in like a respectable and sophisticated way, not overly like not trying to go over the top with it or whatever, but like being like this is a legitimate piece that can be interrogated and interpreted, and like I want to represent it properly, right? Because I was going to be the only one doing one on a video game there. Everyone else was going to be doing like a book or a film or something for that project. So if I was going to be the only one doing a video game, I wanted to show like what the medium is capable of.
Well, also, I think like the sort of general image that games really have is like they're all just shooters.
Yeah.
Shoot, die type of.
I remember talking with my creative writing instructor a few years later. During class, I was mentioning something about, I think it was a personal essay that we had to write. Now I said I wanted to write about my experience with video games, and he was asking me more questions about it, and I was saying like, because like there's sort of these like idyllic moments of like sort of calm, and he's like, oh, even in the midst of all the shooting. I was like, well, yeah, because my thing was at the same time, I do find it compelling that those kinds of games do have like moments of respite,
Yes.
and what those moments mean like within the context of like an overall more violent game. But also then there's just games like Dear Esther where you just walk around, and that's like it is, I would actually say that game to be less idyllic because it's a more sort of tragic story, but seemingly aesthetically it's idyllic because you're just walking across this Hebridean island. But Kentucky Route Zero, I was really passionate about it. I wanted to represent it, purely and well. And it was the first game, I think, that really inspired that kind of curiosity within me. It's meant a lot to me over the years. Obviously I told you the first time I went through, I didn't even play the interludes. Like obviously I went back and played the interludes, played through the whole game again. And it's just like every time I would go back, I would just like, I would feel refreshed. And I think thematically, and I don't want to dive too much into it because I think anyone who is thinking about playing the game should go and experience it on their own. But thematically, I mean, it might seem somewhat trite at sometimes if you're looking at it the right way. Because I think most people get caught up in how like convoluted some of it seems. Like I remember Curtis played it, and I don't think Curtis wanted to say anything bad about the game to me because
obviously it's your favorite.
it was my favorite game. But at the same time, I think maybe it didn't connect with Curtis the same way it connected with me, which that'll happen, and that's fine. But thematically, I think the game it struck a lot of resonance with me. I actually find it to be quite similar to Outer Wilds thematically, in the sense that this sort of well, I don't want to spoil too much, but I feel like talking about the theme is almost spoiling it.
Is it really that much of spoiling if you talk about the theme?
Well, because the overall plot itself is not as important as the sort of thematic resonance.
Oh, okay.
I think most people know the game because of its representation of debt, and that as something that, especially around 2013 up until now, like debt plays a larger and larger role in average American's life. God knows I know that.
Yep.
And so I think people rightfully focus on that, but I think there are other areas that the game explores that are really interesting. And I wouldn't want to, impart my own feelings about that onto it, and then like, I've written about it, I think, so.
Yeah, you have, yes.
So, I mean.
Both your project and the blog, too.
It's there. It's out there somewhere. But that's just, when you have a game make that kind of impact on you, it's kind of hard not to mention it. I mean, just, literally just like, I remember watching Curtis play through it, and he got to one of the interludes. One of the interludes, literally, I don't think the phone number is up anymore, but I think you actually could dial the number, and like you could, quote unquote, play the interlude on your phone.
Huh.
Right? Because it's like this Central Echo Exchange or whatever. It's like this riverboat tour guide.
Right.
But you can like press the location. You can press a button, it'll take you to a different location, then describe that location to you. And that's all you're doing if you're playing it on the computer, is you're using a little rotary phone, actually, I think. But I think back in the day you actually could like dial it in and listen to it on your phone. And I remember when Act 5 was coming out, I was playing through the game again.
Yes.
Just to get ready for it because it was the final act. And I think I was planning, because I usually had a lot of time before my last class, I was planning on like sitting there in like a little study nook and like getting on the phone and going through the interlude. I don't think I ended up doing it, but I was planning on doing it. Because you could, hypothetically. I don't know if the number's still up, but you could. And one of the acts, one of the interludes, is literally just a play. And you sit there, and that's a really interesting spot to put a play. Because a player, you're always sort of, you're in this weird spot between agent and audience.
Right, yes.
Which is the most unique thing about video games. And so to still like, nominally be an agent within the game because you're playing the game, but you're really relegated to an audience member while watching the play, it's an interesting experience. You get to like look around and shit. You can look the opposite way the entire time. You would turn around. But it's also a really interesting play. I remember watching Curtis play this interlude and obviously disinterested, which is fine. And I'm sitting there just like, God, I love this game so much. It's such a like interesting atmosphere. I'm a big atmosphere guy. Yeah. Alex is too. We made fun of him, but he likes like atmosphere in games, which is why New Vegas is one of his favorite. Why Dark Souls and Bioshock are some of his favorite games, because they're atmospherically really interesting, and just the feeling of Kentucky Route Zero is so compelling. Like I just want to sink my face into it.
Well, it's also the thing is, I think it seems like you just develop such a personal connection. You doing that project, and you kind of like turning over your sort of college career.
The one thing,
almost around that point.
Well, that's a good note, because I think the one thing when you talk about your favorite games, I think a lot of people will try to redirect to the idea of some sort of perfect game. Like, what is like critically like the best game I've played, rather than understanding that when you talk about a favorite game, the game can be flawed, but it's your personal experience with it.
Yeah.
And I think that personal experience I have with Kentucky Route Zero, and it'll make sense later on in the list as I start listing other games too.
Alright.
I could probably list the games that I think probably the most perfect game I've ever played was Inside. I don't know if you remember when I played this about a year back. It's a very popular game. It was an indie game, the same people that made Limbo.
Okay.
I just recommended it to Curtis.
I do remember it, yes.
And that's a game that I think it's very artistically nuanced. It's atmospheric, definitely atmospheric, and it's an interesting plot. Although there's no written dialogue and no spoken dialogue.
It's a pretty big challenge, honestly, doing
Which
that.
is an incredible challenge, and it does a magnificent job of it. But I think people were more receptive to that kind of experience as a game because it's not a walking simulator. There's puzzles and stuff, so there's still this challenge that you're supposed to overcome. And that really, the idea of challenge in video games is something that I don't know if we're ever going to overcome it. I think it's always an expectation that a video game is supposed to present a challenge, at least some sort of nominal challenge at the least. There's something you're supposed to overcome in the game. Which is why walking simulators were derided for so long, because there's nothing you're overcoming, you're just experiencing it.
Yeah.
But I always found that more compelling than anything. That's why I've always enjoyed walking sims more than games that present a challenge. I got enough fucking challenge in my life. God knows you do too. Yeah, so like I said, and I think that'll inform your list as well. It's just games that you have some sort of personal resonance with that matters more than anything.
No, for sure. I think that's probably one of the most important aspects of favorite games.
And so if you go with the game that I think you're going to go with, then I think we both have some resonance with it.
Yeah.
So what's your first game?
First game.
Well, first of all, how are we doing on time?
26 minutes.
Well, let's get through this game and then we'll call a break.
Cover? Okay. I guess we can just talk about... Let's talk about Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're kind of referencing it. Let me kind of pull up a description for it though.
You can't describe Kingdom Hearts.
Well, the sort of, general...
Video Game Donkey literally did the video on it where he just verbatim described the plot of Kingdom Hearts, and it's one of the funniest things you'll ever see. He's not even making a joke, he's just verbatim describing the plot. Incredibly convoluted plot. And you played this as a kid. I actually only played it with you in college our freshman year when we lived together. And it's, of course, a very famous franchise, a mashup of Disney and Final Fantasy.
Yep. Let's see.
And everyone knows what it is, because it's Kingdom Hearts.
Honestly, there isn't a good description.
There's no good description of Kingdom Hearts. It's impossible.
I mean, everyone kind of knows it at this point, but I mean, Kingdom Hearts is basically, it follows this, boy named Sora. I think he was like, what, 10, 12 years old?
He's a young kid, that's the point, is that he's a young kid.
He's a young kid. He's on Destiny Island. He wants to travel the world with his two childhood friends, Riku and Kairi. And then as soon as he tries to build a boat, there's this huge.
Because they're going to leave the island. They're on,
Yeah.
Destiny Islands, which is now our Apex group name.
It is.
But they're trying to leave, so he tries to build a boat.
But then, for some reason, these enemies, I think they're called Heartless at this time, and the Heartless, they all tried to, almost kill him, or trying to consume him in this darkness.
Yeah.
It's never really fully explained what happened.
Seems corny, but it's cool.
But anyway, after a lot of events, the whole island kind of gets sucked in this big wormhole, and then he gets in this gets stuck in this wormhole as well, and he lands at Travis Island.
Mm-hmm.
But that's sort of the general plot of the
Traverse
story.
Town or I don't remember.
Traverse?
Well, that's Kingdom Hearts 1. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 2 is a continuation of the story.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts 2 is kind of a continuation, but really, you don't really care about the storyline in Kingdom Hearts, but it's
yes, you do. If you want to feel like your brain is melting, yes.
But it's really the sort of personal connections, because we personally play it. We played Kingdom Hearts 1 together, right? No, we played
both. Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2.
Because I think you can kind of imagine this, where it's just really nice to kind of jump to from. Obviously, in this game, you can jump from world to world. Either be Disney or Square Enix characters.
Yeah.
And it'll just really cool to seeing for example, Pride Lands, Lion King.
Well, Kingdom Hearts 2 has The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Which that's
that was just awesome. And then his Sora's costume, along with his companions Donald and Goofy.
Yeah.
He
does get to have Donald and Goofy as his companions.
As his sidekicks. That they're useless. But anyway.
They're not useless. Goofy has a shield.
Fine. Donald is.
Okay.
Just dies instantly.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, their outfits.
Yeah, their outfits change according to the environment, and you kind of just the player develops like this huge relationship with the environment, and I don't know, it's just really nice to seeing like exploring these sort of Disney worlds that you only see in film, and you get to explore in video games.
It utilizes nostalgia, but I wouldn't say it preys on nostalgia, especially those earlier games, because it presents those worlds in like a fresh perspective, infusing the Final Fantasy aspect of it, having its incredibly convoluted story being caught up in each of these worlds. It's not so much preying on that nostalgia, more so just like it's there. I mean, these are worlds we're familiar with.
I mean, it's like who would have imagined like a mashup between Disney and like freaking like Final Fantasy characters?
Yeah, completely bizarre, but it does it well, and it creates an incredibly memorable experience.
You see like freaking
For a number of reasons.
Mickey Mouse trying to like say "oh ho" and then gets slammed in the wall of the darkness.
That's just so good. God, I had it retweeted, but I think that person keeps privating their account.
That's funny.
That thing was so good. That was one of the middle games, right?
Yeah, I think it was one of the middle
It's
games.
just Mickey, he's like, "Whoop, whoop, whoop." He just gets choke slammed up against the fucking wall. Oh my god. And then there was that picture I took of, there's a screenshot I found of Minnie Mouse. Or it's one of the Final Fantasy characters, and he's like, all this time I've been looking into darkness, and it cuts out, it's Minnie Mouse like standing in like this colorful town. I mean, the game is in part memorable for its absurdity.
Yes.
Unintentional absurdity, it seems like at times.
Because, I mean, I guess the creator tried with the storyline, but you don't really care about the storyline, you kind of just care about, like, the sort of characters.
I get the feeling they've had, like, 55 different people working on, like, being, like, the head of the story. Not even...
They all had different ideas for it.
And they didn't even, like, worry about the last person. It was basically like the Star Wars sequel trilogy that just came out. Like, it was just a mess. They just
You
did
try to
whatever
fix
they
it.
wanted.
I'm not dealing with it. But yeah, just, like I said, like you mentioned, Nightmare Before Christmas, that was freaking great.
What is your favorite level from Kingdom Hearts 2?
Oh, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Is that I'm gonna pull them up because it has a lot of good ones. I really enjoyed. I'm kind of between the first one and the second one as for which one I prefer.
Because both are great.
What do you think about Kingdom Hearts 3 though?
I like 3 better than 1, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, no, you
Yeah.
can't like 3 more than 1.
I don't know. It was probably like a really close competition between.
Remember Atlantica?
Oh yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of Atlantica.
I didn't like
Port
Atlantica.
Royal. 100 Acre Wood is like the side thing you can
That's
do.
a side thing. Port Royal
Which
was
is really
wild though.
Yeah,
Being part of the Caribbean.
Land of Dragons.
Because the graphics of that place is completely different from all the other worlds as far as the Caribbean. Because I mean, it's also like a realistic vibe towards it. It's not like a cartoon feeling that you have with most worlds.
Yeah, with most of the worlds they are cartoons, but the Pirates of the Caribbean is obviously not.
It's like feeling like realistic.
Yeah, and that one has like a lot of things like boat battles and stuff.
Yeah, and it even has like freaking like ghost pirates, and they look pretty gruesome too. Like,
Bro, I think my favorite level, no matter what, in Kingdom Hearts 2 is just Twilight Town. With like,
just the
with
Sargon.
Sora's Nobody's. Yeah, it's just such a, it's got like this,
yeah.
for them being like, what they're like the soulless version of the, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, the nobody version.
Yeah, but like, they live in this like enchanting, charming town, and everything is so happy around there.
Yeah, it was just really nice because I didn't really start with that. Where Kingdom Hearts 2, it started off not with Sora as the main character. It started with his nobody, and don't worry about the details. But
Don't ever worry about the details of Kingdom Hearts.
Roxas, that was his name.
Yeah, it is Roxas.
Roxas. It followed Roxas, and like, he was doing some sort of summer assignment with his friends. There's like, assuming his childhood friends. I don't know the details, but they were trying to find we're gonna investigate all these mysteries with this town. And all through the mysteries that they're investigating were all these sort of discrepancy with this world.
And they're all connected to Sora's story.
Yeah, which is like really cool.
But it's an interesting note because it takes you're there for a while.
Yeah, I think for
And you're sitting there like, who the hell are these people?
I have no idea what they are. Unless you played the interlude, I think.
Yeah.
Which we didn't. We didn't play Chain of Memories. Chain of Memories was lame, that's why I didn't bother with it.
I think we could bookend this on the other end.
Yep.
Because what are we at now?
There before.
Oh, we're going too long. Break time. Well, that was a great break. I yawned like once. That was nice.
I turned on my phone twice.
That's too many times. You're addicted.
Yeah. I have a phone addiction problem. Yeah.
I think out of the two of us, well, actually, who does spend more time on their phone?
Probably me, just because I play games on my phone a lot.
Sometimes I lay in bed and watch HBO Max.
I watch YouTube on my phone like really a lot too.
Okay, I don't watch much YouTube on my phone. You can find the screen time.
Just from today, I watched 2 hours and 4 minutes of YouTube.
Brother.
That was because I was watching Valorant tournament though today.
Do you think Alex is having fever dreams right now of like his cuckold fantasy? I want to fuck my clone while my wife watches.
This is the most weirdest thing
Actually,
I've heard from him.
I guess I can spoil The Sopranos now because it's been so long. I've already had some of the ending parts spoiled to me because it's been so long.
Right.
But I just watched the season 2 finale, and he literally finds out which one of his friends is a rat from fever dreams he has. That episode is... The Sopranos is so fucking wild, dude. Because half the time it's like this serious mobster like flick, and the other half the time it's like... It's comedy. The dude is having these like fever dreams. He wakes up and is like running to the toilet, and you can hear him like shitting himself. He's going like,
What?
just hear this. He's like fumbling around. I don't. That show is so bizarre. I like it. I love that that kind of has fun with itself sometimes. But yeah, he's having fever dreams and he figures out one of his friends is a rat. So maybe Alex is figuring things out about us right now. You can sense that we're talking shit
Probably.
about Dark Souls, the worst game
The
ever.
worst game ever.
Just
Oh my
absolutely
gosh.
deplorable.
Between graphics, the gameplay.
And
it's
Elden
awful.
Ring is dog shit too.
Even worse than Dark Souls.
You actually, I do own Dark Souls 1.
I do.
I think I might own Dark Souls 2 as well. You own Dark Souls 1.
Because I think Alex bought my
Because Alex's idea of a gift is to get things that he likes for other people.
yeah, he bought my birthday, I remember that.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I do own Demon Souls. I bought that of my own volition. And I played some of it with Alex, and I actually did like the first part of it. I'll probably replay Demon Souls on the PS5 at some point, but I can't with games that require effort.
It makes sense.
Except for Apex.
Also, it's also because we're both like very busy. You're either at school now or you're at like an internship.
And you get home, you just want to chill, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to stress out over this mega boss that one hits you.
Like I still haven't finished the game. I was like still playing on.
I think that's some of the appeal of it, though, is that people are maybe who are busy and are having a tough time. Like it makes you feel good that you accomplished something.
Yeah. Sure you can see that.
And also, they're also apparently atmospherically very cool, and there's interesting parts to them. But we're not here to talk about Alex's game. We're here to talk about our games. This is why. Did you want to add anything to Kingdom Hearts 2?
I think I covered most of the bases. Like the start of that game was very weird, of where it started with like this cast of characters that you have no idea about.
Which is a cool note to start on.
But even then, you get kind of immersed with like these sort of childhood friends. You know, they're just on their summer assignment. You know, you're not fighting any of these like heartless nobodies.
Yeah.
You're literally just becoming like these part of like these middle schoolers that try and do some sort of summer assignment.
They have a good dynamic. It's interesting that both games, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, start like a decent chunk of it without enemies and fights. It really is just like slowly immersing you in the world a little bit.
Both actually, yeah. 3 was the only exception actually. Yeah, both
What
of them
was
started.
3? What did 3 start with?
I don't remember 3.
Yeah, very memorable game.
I don't remember 3.
But 1 and 2 both start you pretty much not doing too much in terms of combat or anything.
No.
You're not doing any of that. It's just slowly bringing you into the world.
Yeah, you're just playing with your childhood friends. It's really fun.
Which is, yeah, you can tell.
Heck, Sora, Rika, and Kairi. I mean, even with them, you only saw 3 of them, but there was like a whole town in the
yeah,
back.
you never see it.
You just never see it.
It's like they live with their parents and stuff.
Yeah, I think they're sort of like in this like port area.
They didn't want to spend money rendering those characters. They had to make those models.
Well, because they rendered Sora's house and room.
Yeah,
a
they
little
did.
bit.
You can see him looking out or whatever.
And then, because I think Destiny Island, it was like a little island off the shore a little bit. I think from the main port town. And just only like Sora, Riku, and Kairi just played there.
Now the little playpen with this whole ass island.
I think so.
It must be nice.
I think so, because remember Sora was like, oh, there's a storm there in the Destiny Island, and that's how he got sucked into everything.
Oh, okay, yeah. But I think also both the sort of intros serve a bit as like tutorial stuff, because obviously I think in the first game you have the competition with Riku. Second game you do some activities around the town or whatever.
You do have a competition with like a Riku-like figure too.
Yeah. So the functional utility of them is that, but I mean, there's more than just quote-unquote functional utility when it comes to a video game. They're trying to craft an experience, and it is a refreshing note. It is a nice note to start on these sort of peaceful parts, and you get to know the character. And I think it's Kingdom Hearts 2. It certainly builds a lot of resonance with those characters.
You do build a lot of characters, a lot of characterization. Actually, it's perfect, and you don't see Roxas ever again though. Really, I mean, you see him a little bit in the shadows a little bit.
I like Roxas so much.
I mean, I think it was kind of sweet when Namine was it? Namine's I'm spoiling a little bit too much, but nominees was
The game has been out for a while.
was Kairi's Nobody, and
Yeah.
I remember at the end that Rock was nominated to kind of just hold hands together to kind of symbolize that Sora and Kairi were together for like 3 seconds.
Yeah. It's not Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts is so bad.
Kingdom Hearts 3 was supposed to tie everything together, just fucking made it fall apart even further.
3 was supposed to be the end game too.
It was supposed to, and now they're doing another one, I'm pretty sure.
It's like, oh, we're gonna extend it.
They have so many other things they can make money off of. Just let the Kingdom Hearts franchise end.
I don't want it to end, honestly.
They will not, because I just for the fact that I want a satisfying, proper ending. It doesn't have to tie everything together super neatly, but it needs an actual ending. And they just refuse to actually end it. Because Kingdom Hearts 3 is very much not an ending. Like they say they're explicitly saying there's more to happen. But it is what it is.
It is what it is. Actually, is there a release date for Kingdom Hearts 4? No.
No, but I think that it is supposed to happen, right?
There's a trailer for it that was released pretty recently, like 2 months ago.
Yeah. Alright, so is it time to move on to the next game?
Yeah, that's your turn.
I don't want to do it, brother.
It's your turn.
I can't say it.
Do it!
But you know what I'm gonna say, and I don't want to say it.
Do it!
I have excuses.
What's your excuse?
I have reasons for this being here. But I had to be honest. Okay? You have to be honest with your favorite games.
Yeah.
And honestly,
It's like a porn game. No, it's gonna go.
it's The Last of Us.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Okay, well, Last of Us 1, I assume?
Yes, including Left Behind, which Left Behind, I think,
Is that an expansion?
it was a DLC.
Oh,
It was technically a prequel story to the events of The Last of Us from Ellie's perspective. Ellie being one of the main characters from the base game. The Last of Us has had an interesting legacy.
I love how you're seeing like that.
And The Last of Us is one of those games that, like, listen, it came to me at a certain point in my life where it had additional meaning. Okay, so that's my excuse for why I liked it so much.
Give an excuse.
Now the funny thing about The Last of Us, because I was early high school age maybe when the game came out.
I believe so, yes.
And it had a lot of hype behind it, and it's a Sony title, so it was releasing on the PlayStation 3 exclusively. And there was so much hype behind it, and I saw the game was set to release on my birthday, which is actually in a couple of days. Well, it'll be the 9th anniversary of the game coming out in a couple of days, alongside my birthday.
It'll be your 23rd anniversary.
23rd anniversary of me being born.
Yeah, there you go, see?
So, I was like, this is so perfect, but I don't have a PS3. So I couldn't play it, but I really wanted to. And luckily I had a wealthy benefactor in town. My aunt and uncle were in town. And they went and bought me the PS3 for my birthday.
Wow.
And my dad got me the game from my birthday. And this is actually funny, it's like a stupid time to buy the PS3 because the PS4 had just been announced.
Oh.
But whatever. I'm grateful that the PS3 was gifted to me because I have a lot of good memories with that console. I played a lot of games on the PS3. Within that 6-month frame or whatever before the PS4 came out. Although I didn't get the PS4 at first anyway. But, I sat down, we had this little nook room. You'd enter from the garage, and there was a sort of, I guess you could call it a computer room before that would, feed into the kitchen. And we had one of those little box TVs sitting there.
Yeah.
And I hooked up my PS3 there. I sat down and I experienced this game on AV cables on a little box TV.
Freaking like dinosaur TV.
And this is like not that it matters as much, but it's a photorealistic game. And this was like the furthest they had pushed the PS3 in terms of photorealism, and I was playing with AV cables on a box TV.
Hey man, gotta do what you gotta do.
But I sat there and I played through it, and I think this game was such. I mean, it is. I still think it has the best dialogue. Probably the best dialogue of anything I've ever seen or read. The dialogue is so raw. It's so pure. The characters like even little actions they'll take in between scenes, because obviously the game is performance capture, so you have actual actors performing the scenes. And little details that you get, the way they write their dialogue, like just Joel. The first words Joel says when it cuts to 20 years later, when he gets up and you see him walking towards the door or whatever, and the first words out of his mouth, just the tone that comes through, and the performances and everything. I think it was the game. I think maybe has had a negative impact unintentionally, but it really set the stage for cinematic games.
Right.
It was.
Just with all the performance, with all the emotions,
the structure,
the natural
blocking of the scenes. I mean, it is shot like a movie, which kind of sucks because now the idea of like games as playable movies has become like ubiquitous, and you saw the effect it had on the Sony games. Almost every like Sony exclusive that comes out now has to be like this, which sucks because I think the only one that's really lived up to it was the 2018 God of War reboot. That's the only one I played from Sony where I was like, oh, this really lives up to like the cinematic sheen of The Last of Us. I don't even think The Last of Us is a sequel. The Last of Us sequel from a purely cinematic perspective does, but this is just a story.
Yeah, everything else is
we'll leave that. We'll just leave that alone. Other people have opinions about it that I don't share. Other negative opinions that I don't share. I have my own reasons for being conflicted about that game. But the first one, I just feel like, structurally what I really loved about the first game was it's more contained. This was like the last time a AAA game was allowed to be like 12 hours.
It's the only time it was allowed.
The last time. There's no AAA game coming out now that isn't at least a 20-hour campaign. So this was like, a short, roughly 12-hour campaign. And it's like every beat of the story is always these like really simple tasks they're trying to accomplish. Get to the Capitol building, get into Bill's town. There are always these really simple things they're trying to accomplish. Trying to get a car to get to here, right?
What was the entire gist of the plot like? 'Cause I know it's.
I guess we can talk about it more now. I mean, it's been a long time, but it's a very sort of generic overall plot, which is that it's post-apocalyptic America. There was some sort of virus that went around and it turned people into infected. They're just zombies. Yeah. So it's a zombie apocalypse type game. I don't have any problem with I don't think that's oversimplifying it. That is basically what it is.
Right.
And so the game famously starts at the outbreak, and then after the events of the initial scene, fast forwards 20 years, and you have Joel, who's now this 20 years older guy. Who comes across Ellie, who's this little 13-year-old girl living in this wasteland, and she is immune. She is immune to this virus that has ravaged the world, and
how do they know that she's immune specifically?
She's been bit.
Oh, she's been bit. Okay.
She's been bit, which is what Left Behind follows. Left Behind follows the story of how she got bit.
Oh, I see.
It's her with her friend, and so she's been bit, but she hasn't turned. So she's immune, and basically the whole task of the game is getting her out to an encampment out on the west side of the country, because it starts up in Massachusetts and they need to get out to Colorado or Utah. I think Colorado is where they're initially going. They need to get out to that side of the country so they can take her to this group of people who may be able to do some tests on her and engineer a vaccine.
Okay.
So it's the overall plot is pretty cheesy. And pretty generic in a lot of sense, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Every story, when you distill it, is some generic. Sort of it's been done before.
Yeah.
What I really loved about the game is that the tasks to get to that point were always relatively simplistic. Like they need a car to get from here to there, so they need to go and find this person that Joel knows to get a car, and the relationship. Because what the game is really about is the relationship between Joel and Ellie, and how it develops, as these strangers eventually into a father-daughter relationship. And it's these really simple tasks, and you get to see their relationship unfold really naturally as they're trying to achieve these small things.
Right.
There's just these relatively simplistic tasks that they're trying to accomplish, and there's tons of hurdles that come their way or whatnot. But that relationship is building naturally over the course of these events.
It's not like some sort of sudden shifts, oh yeah, we're father and daughter now, that type of thing. But all these small tasks that you see throughout the story, I'm just repeating again.
When it gets to that point where it's
because I'm sure it's very rewarding.
It's earned. They earn those moments in a way that I feel like the sequel was a bit too preoccupied with having those grander moments, those sort of big plot moments, rather than spending the legwork on just building those relationships. It does a lot with relationships, but I think it's always focused on these sort of bigger plot points. The first game, lets, the way I try to describe it is that it lets the sort of big come from the small. So you have these sort of small moments, and you can have profundity within those small moments. just an idle, like the way you look at someone in a scene. I think the first game does that a lot. It's really well structured in that sense. It's hard not to enjoy that story. It is incredibly meaningful and it is incredibly dreary.
Yeah.
It is a sad story and it does have a lot of big moments that are impactful and meant to elicit sadness. But for the most part, it executes it well enough to where you feel like it's earned and you do feel that. It doesn't feel heavy-handed in any sense. It's, where it needs to be, it's delicate, and where it needs to be heavy-handed, it at least earns it.
Yes.
And what the real sort of impact of that game is that relationship that they're building between these two characters. The dialogue is always so well done.
Actually, I mean, you pretty much remember the dialogue, right, from memory?
I've tried to step away from the game, but yes, I can still remember quite a bit of the dialogue. It's really well written, and obviously everyone knows the performances are fucking amazing. But I always thought, the game got derided by dumb people as like just a movie game. It's just known as a movie game, and it's just like the joke sort of revealed that you're watching a walkthrough is the same as playing because you're just watching it anyway. It's just a movie basically.
Because there's a lot of cutscenes.
Hey, damn near as many cutscenes as Metal Gear. Metal Gear Solid got way more fucking cutscenes and way longer cutscenes than The Last of Us. I think Metal Gear Solid sort of sets the stage for cinematic games, but more in the sense of action. Whereas what The Last of Us did in terms of cinematic games is it sets it sort of sets the table for games becoming dramas, right? So whereas Metal Gear is like action espionage, The Last of Us is a drama, and that's sort of typically more respected. Within any sort of artistic medium, you're going to respect like a drama more than like tactical action espionage or whatever. Although I think the Metal Gear games are really interesting stories.
Yeah.
But that's why I think The Last of Us, the effect it had is sort of muddled, is because I think people got overly excited about the legitimacy of the form being sort of mediated to The Last of Us. That we can say video games are like, hey, that's real art because look at The Last of Us. And I think people started playing it that way too much. And it's like, it's good on its own. And it's a good video game. Part of why I have so much resonance with it is the interactive element. I mean, you get to feel the sort of the worlds that they're moving through. And the world building is spectacular in that game. Just, walking through rooms and seeing stuff out of place and whatnot and thinking about who lived there and what,
What sort of memories they had in there
Yeah,
before
what they
the apocalypse and stuff like that.
And it has incredible resonance with the direction that Ellie's story goes. Which is why, I don't know if you know, they remastered the game for PS4, obviously. But they're actually remaking the game all over again for PS5, which is so fucking annoying. And I saw some of the screenshots side by side, and I understand that it's updated models and it's more photorealistic, quote unquote. But just some of the scenes are lacking the lighting that the original scenes had, and that lighting is so important. Like there's one scene where they're driving through, I think, Pittsburgh, and Ellie is just looking out the window in the truck, and so much of the game, for better or worse, is about her sort of innocence and how that dissolves the more she sort of experiences the world. But this is so early on in the game, and you have this sort of sunshine coming through on the door, just like setting on her face, and it distills that so perfectly. Like here she is, just looking out the window at this sunny world that
she thinks it is, but it's not.
She cares. I mean, she cares about it for the rest of the game. Even that's the sort of, I mean, this is a spoiler or whatever, but that's sort of the particular like meaningful part of the game is that for everything that she experiences, she still cares about the world. She still believes. She's still optimistic despite everything she goes through, which is what they killed in part 2. They just stripped that of her completely. But she had this like abiding optimism, and it's heartwarming to see it, especially early on, and it's rendered in the scenes when you have that sort of sunlight sitting on her face, and then in the updated version they're doing part 1, it's just gone. You look at the scene and it's more photorealistic. Her eyes look a little more realistic or whatever. But that glow that you get from the sunshine is just gone. It's just dull. It's just dull now. And so it loses a lot of the heart that the original game had. Maybe the original game didn't look as photorealistic, but you have to pay attention to those things too.
To the atmosphere.
And obviously it's different people working on this remake than worked on the original. So they might not be thinking about those things as much. Because they know more of the technical aspects of it. So it's unfortunate that I wish it would not have gotten rebooted. It actually, they were trying to do a Days Gone 2, I think, and they said no, you're not gonna do a sequel. We're gonna make you work on The Last of Us remake instead. So it's fucking money grab. I'm really upset by it. I don't like that. But anyway, yeah. So the game means a lot to me now. I still think Left Behind is probably the most perfect cinematic game if you just treat the DLC on its own,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. It's one of those games, if I had to talk about like perfect games, I would list like Inside and I would list like Left Behind. I mean, it is so perfectly constructed. Just a really, really incredibly meaningful experience. And that one basically just focuses on Ellie. And I'll get into spoilers with this too, but the game was originally supposed to be a prequel, like I said, to follow when she got bit with her friend.
Yeah.
But half of the game actually takes place concurrent with the events of the base game.
Oh.
So there's a section where Ellie is having to take care of Joel, but you never really see that. And so you go to you find Ellie sort of dragging Joel into this mall after he's been injured, and she has to find like medical supplies in this mall, and it reflects with because it'll go back and forth between the events of this and the prequel events, and it reflects with her and her friend exploring a mall in Boston where they end up getting bitten. And so the whole game takes place inside of a mall, just one mall in Colorado during the events of the original game, and one game in a mall.
That's a really cool mirror. Okay,
Yeah, so it's mirroring each other. Oh my god. Actually, the segments that you play in the sort of prequel parts with her friend, there's no combat or anything. Which you don't know that. There's always the threat of it. You always think it could come. But there actually are no combat segments at all in that segment. All the combat segments come in the events that are concurrent with The Last of Us. So it's just... So the pacing in terms of the gameplay and then also the story, the way it goes back and forth on each other. Oh man. It's very, very well done. It's a really good experience. And I think, because The Last of Us... I talked about Kentucky Route Zero being one of the first games to really sort of like spark my curiosity, like the intellectual curiosity in terms of video games. It probably actually was The Last of Us. It probably wasn't Kentucky Route Zero. It probably was The Last of Us. Like that. I thought about that game. I used to think about the game all the time.
I think it's probably a combination of both of them, really. The Last of Us.
I think
Kentucky Route Zero played a huge role too, kind of, especially during college when we played it.
Yeah, I think it sort of advanced the stage a little bit. But
Last of Us might have started it though, of course.
It started the fire. It was a bad, bad fire.
Bad fire.
So what's game number 2 for you? You're gonna Google it? Are you trying to Google like a description of it? Yeah.
There's not really left.
Where are we at?
23 minutes.
We have 23 minutes left?
Yeah.
Oh, that's plenty of time to get through our last couple of games.
No, we have 23 minutes. That's the clock right now.
Oh, so we have 7 minutes to go? We can go over a little bit.
Yeah.
We don't have any Alex here, who cares? We're gonna go over.
I think what I'm gonna do is Atelier Sophie 1.
Oh, Atelier Sophie. Alright.
Well, the thing with this game was that, because I remember how I found this game was I was really bored. It was like a summer day. I didn't really have anything to do, so I went through the PS4 page. And I was like looking at all the games, and I saw like this game was on sale for like half the price. And it's like, okay, why not? It looks interesting. And here's a story.
So Asian, 50% off. It's a deal.
Let's see. The game is set in the small town of Kirchenbell, a location with a warm atmosphere and occasional rainfall, during the dawning era of alchemy prior to its becoming a widespread art.
Because that's what the game is about. It's about alchemy.
Yeah, it's about alchemy and ultimately that. Within the outskirts lies an Atelier studio run solely by a girl named Sophie, who has a mysterious power that allows her to combine items together to form entirely different items.
This is an affront to God. That's what an atelier is, right? It's like an alchemist studio or an alchemist table or something.
Mm-hmm. See, without a mentor or reference guide to teach her, her alchemy attempts repeatedly fail time and time again. One day, however, she comes across a mysterious book that moves and talks by its own free will. Sophie's goal is to restore the book's memory and to its former human form.
So that's the plot of the game.
Yeah. So, essentially, the whole thing is, just like what I described, it's, you play this young girl, Sophie, and her grandmother, who used to be this really good alchemist, she passed away early, and, without a teacher, Sophie can't do alchemy. Mm-hmm. She tries to run this like studio that was run by her grandmother, but she just keeps failing. She doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like this talking book for some reason it could talk for some reason, and it teaches her alchemy, and then she slowly becomes like a very
That's good classic storytelling.
And then obviously they bond together, and Sophie eventually wants to turn the book back to its form. But The real interesting part about this game, because apparently this game was like, it's like first made in like 1998 or something, when I was born, I think, or something. It's a pretty veteran franchise, but like what's really interesting about the game is that it's an RPG, but typically with RPGs is that you typically just, you buy equipment, you buy the weapons, and then you go out and fight enemies, and you keep getting money, and you keep doing this whole loop again. Fight monsters, get money, buy weapons, buy armor. But this game, it really stresses on the sort of aspect about alchemy, about, okay, so we're going to make you explore this world. We're going to force you to collect these materials, whether it be from like rocks, whether it be from like trees, whether it be like flowers. And then we're going to force you to gather these materials, and then we're going to make you make your own weapons, your own armor.
Yeah. That was the part that you used to stress a lot, is that the game forces you to interact with the environment.
Yeah, and you get to like enjoy like the sort of, the environment around like Kirstenbell. And Kirstenbell is like surrounded by like a forest, and there's like a mountain somewhere, and there's like a stream somewhere, and then you can keep like exploring these areas, and you keep collecting these materials, because you really feel like you really explore the environment. Oh well, I got all these materials from this environment, now I can make this sort of new equipment, these sort of weapons, these sort of bombs that I can like make. It's all from this environment.
Yeah.
Because I'm very familiar with this environment now. It's like, oh, I'm missing material. I guess I'll just go take a walk in these mountains and just get these materials. Because it really.
I think it's cool how you can you associate it with a certain area of the environment.
Yeah, and then like, I don't know, just like that sort of accomplishment where you kind of like fight these really hard monsters, because you can now, because you have all this equipment that you built. You spent like time and hours and hours. I remember like the very end of the story, I remember I spent like almost like 2 or 3 hours crafting like the most perfect armor I could, the most perfect items I could, and I just kill a boss instantly. But but the point is, it's a sort of connection that you have with all these equipment, because you feel like I actually really made this armor. I feel like I just didn't buy it somewhere. I really made it, and I spent all that time kind of doing it. It's sort of like the same relationship as Monster Hunter. Or
Yeah.
Where you kind of like farm monsters for like all these like hides or whatever, and you create like the most ultimate armor and weapons. It's kind of similar to that, but
the interesting part is that you have to interact with the environment, and that it is specific areas within the environment that will get you certain things.
So and then I actually managed to platinum that game, because it's just really easy, because you could get all the trophies at the end of the game. It wasn't like a really hard game where you had to keep playing it over and over again to get a trophy, but I don't know, I just remember that game being like so impactful. I was like, wow, this is really fun, and ever since then I've been playing all the different iterations of it. I mean, I haven't finished Atelier Sophie 2, but eventually I will. But it's just a really fun.
You need to get on it and record it so we can put it in some of the videos. We're gonna have to put footage from all these games then for the next one. That'll be fun.
But yeah, I mean, this is a really, really fun game. I played it like way back then. I don't remember when. I think it was like middle school or high. No, it has to be high school, I think.
Probably high school.
I don't think it was middle school.
Because the PS4 came out, I think, when we were in middle school.
Because I got a PS4 as like a Christmas gift.
No, the PS4 came out when we were in high school. We were in high school.
I didn't get it during launch date though. I got it maybe like 1 or 2 years later.
Yeah, we were definitely in high school, and then you got it later, so you would have to be like late high school.
Yeah, probably like either junior or senior or something. But
yeah.
Yeah, just really fun. Extremely fun.
Well, I guess, okay, how much time do we have?
1 minute.
1 minute.
Oh.
Well, I suppose we talked about 2 of our favorite games, but we could just very briefly get into the third. Just wrap it up real quick, or do you want to call it?
I mean, because the reason why I was kind of brief was my Atelier Sophie, because I know we were running out of time. But yeah, go for brief ones. Let's go for 2 brief ones. 2
brief ones, because this one I didn't really know what to do for the third one anyway. I just feel like, considering my personality and what games I like to play. By the way, Brahim is online. He's playing Civ 6. We gotta get him off of that. I think it would be kind of. It would be very disingenuous if I didn't include at least one walking simulator.
Right.
So I'm gonna go with, and this is tough because there are a lot of quote-unquote walking sims that I initially played that had a massive impact on me.
Like Thomas Was Alone? That's saying a walking sim.
Yeah, it's a great walking sim, isn't it?
I mean, you walk as a cube.
You're not walking, you're jumping.
Jumping as a cube?
Well, actually, ironically, the one I'm gonna go with is Promesa.
Oh,
which, yeah, you do remember that, yeah. And I think it's ironic that she's that because I think I describe it in the post as a bit incorrect to call it a walking sim, considering you spend about half the time gliding through the scenes rather than walking. In fact, to the point where you do actually begin walking, it's a bit jarring hearing your own footsteps.
That's funny.
So the way it's described is a bit haughty. Is that the word?
Haughty.
I don't know. It's a bit much the way they describe it in the description, but it's described as a contemplative experience where you'll wander through the dreams, memories, and fantasies emerging from a dialogue between a grandfather and his grandchild.
Oh, yeah.
So you read these sort of before the scene, before you go into the scene, you read these. I guess we call them like letters from the grandfather. And I suppose you sort of fill the role as the grandchild, and then you sort of explore these scenes. And there's this, you really just they're not like really grand scenes. Sometimes maybe one or two of them are.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like these really sort of ordinary, seemingly even mundane scenes. You spend a lot of time sort of wandering through it seems like it's like his apartment home, and then there's a lot of like muddying between these sort of quote unquote real environments and more of like his fantasies or his dreams and stuff. You sort of glide through clouds and you go through all these sort of glide across this burning town at some points.
This is all from his memories always.
Yeah, and you're not. It's not like the letters are not telling you exactly what this place is. They're just, sort of personal notes from the grandfather, and you sort of just dive through these, or glide through these scenes, and you build like sort of you're building a personal connection with the grandfather, not so much because of what he's telling you, but because you're sort of experiencing these worlds as he experienced them. Whether or not, and there's sort of a muddying between what is a dream and what is a memory, which I note in the post, which I think is a really interesting thing that it does, because, when you're the grandfather, presumably on his deathbed, and when you're there, what really is the difference between a dream and a memory at that point. And so it's an interesting aesthetic rendering of that sort of muddying at that stage in your life, which I thought was very meaningfully done. And I like the fact that it has these sort of ordinary scenes. At one point you see these sort of figments of the outlines of luggage, like on a train station just dropped or whatever. These really, really ordinary, seemingly mundane things. Because I think part of what, good art can do is sort of like stylizing the ordinary, painting it sort of dreamlike sheen. Because every single moment can be meaningful if you just portray it as such. Which is like some of the photography that I really enjoy. There was one set from a particular photographer literally called Ordinary Places.
Oh.
And so he would just take pictures of relatively ordinary things and obviously edit them up and give them a sort of dreamlike sheen a little bit. Everything has memory, or everything has meaning if you're willing to look at it from that perspective. I think it's cool seeing like, different buildings and structures, because you can just imagine what people in the past have interacted with and what memories are sort of hiding in the walls.
No, it's sort of great because it kind of, for me, it seems like it gives like sort of visual representation of what memories would be if you were like kind of go into someone's memories. So if you got in our memories, it's probably something like very fuzzled.
It's like a contorted, sort of distorted, but also kind of dreamified version of it, because it only really does exist in your mind now. And so going and seeing it, what feels like from the grandfather's perspective is a very intimate experience, almost invasionary in a sense, because it's like, this is almost like invading his privacy, because this is just like his memory and rendering of that moment in his life, or of a sort of overall part of his life. But you become comfortable there over the game. The game literally only lasts 45 minutes.
Oh really? Only 45?
It's 45 minutes. Perfect for me. I love 45 minutes. I'll take that all day. Can they make a 10-minute game? I'll play that. But you start, I think, feeling a little uncomfortable, right? And it sort of aesthetically it sets up like kind of like a play, and you do feel like you're sort of invading the character's stage a little bit.
Yeah.
But eventually you become comfortable there, and by the end you feel a touch of sorrow by the end. It's kind of a heartwarming sorrow, weirdly enough, but it's a sorrow there at the end. Despite there's no characters rendered in the game. You really are just sort of gliding through scenes. But you begin to, feel a resonance with it for sure. It's very well constructed for sure.
I definitely Because I remember when I was reading that post, and I was like, wow, that game actually seems pretty interesting. You know, like with all the games you write in your post, it's obviously very interesting. But I remember that one being kind of like sticking out in my mind. That's a really cool one.
That one was really easy to write about.
It's a really cool concept.
Sometimes games are hard to write about.
Yeah.
That one was really easy. So what's your third?
Well, I'm pretty sure you know what it is.
I think I do.
What do you think it is?
Well, I can't just say it.
Persona 5.
Oh, yes, it is! Persona 5!
You
The game you have like 5,000 hours in.
It's the opposite of the 45-minute game.
Yes.
It's like 100 hours, I think. I'm pretty
Goodness
sure.
gracious, I can't do that. I don't think there's any like single player game I have 100 hours in.
Let's see.
Even my Red Dead 2 playthrough, I think I was around the 70 to 80 hour mark on my Red Dead 2 playthrough. And that took me forever.
No.
Actually, no, that was when I still had the energy to play games every day, and it still took me a month.
Persona 5, I don't think it took me that long. I think it took me maybe like a month.
You're a psycho.
Anyway, wait.
But Persona 5 is incredibly popular for a reason.
Yeah, Persona 5 takes place in modern-day Tokyo and follows a high school student known by the pseudonym Joker, who transfers to a new school after being falsely accused of assault and put on probation. Over the course of a school year,
Sounds like one of my clients.
he and other students awaken to a special power, becoming a group of secret vigilants named as the Phantom Thieves of Hearts. They explore the metaverse, a supernatural realm born from humanity's subconscious desires to steal malevolent intent from the hearts of adults. That's bad. I mean, essentially what makes the game very interesting, and of course, yeah, all the adults are corrupt or whatever, which that's a part of the element of the game, but really the sort of element in the game where you're playing as this outcast who gets, falsely accused being trying to sexually assault someone, which he didn't do. He's got falsely accused by, I mean, I can explode it, but he gets accused by this corrupt politician, and
What's this politician trying to do to this kid?
he gets sent into this institute, and well, the English version translated as just as it is, I think Shuchian Institute, which means basically a prisoner institute, basically. That's what the direct translation is. And it's supposed to kind of magnify, he feels really trapped, he feels really isolated. But over the course during the event, what made the game really interesting was he eventually gets this power to fight all these corrupt adults. Like the first enemy was this former Olympic volleyball coach who was sexually harassing him every single high school girl that he saw, basically. And you eventually had the power to kind of stop that, but to me that wasn't really the most important part. Was what Persona really does very well is building relationships with everyone, and it's called social links in that game, where you build all these links with all your friends that he previously didn't have, obviously, and his best friends. And then he just goes around town and he forms these relationships, and he kind of, as a player and just as himself, he doesn't feel well, I'm not alone anymore. I have all these friends now that they actually.
Because he originally felt isolated.
Yeah, he felt isolated. I mean, he literally got sent into the boonies, basically.
Yeah.
And
But within the boonies, he made some friends.
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, it was just a very sort of a sweet story where he develops all these
It
relationships.
takes 100 hours.
I mean, like I said, you can even you could actually form or make romantic relationships if you really want to.
People debate which ones you're supposed to romance.
Who's the best waifu or whatever.
Who's the best waifu?
I don't know, just that game is very powerful. It's very good thematic game. And of course, I mean, it's also it's very. What do you say? The game is that you're playing as teenagers. They're not freaking adults or whatever.
They're not teenagers that act like adults.
Yeah, because they don't have freaking a lot of. I'm very critical of a lot of sort of anime franchises, because even in book franchises, I'm sure I lecture a lot about this with you. I'm sure,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Where for some reason they portray the teenagers, especially teenagers high school age, seniors or whatever. They portray them as having these freaking mature adult minds.
Yeah.
They don't have that. It's not very realistic to me.
I
It
think it's a
doesn't
very
make
valid
sense.
criticism.
It doesn't make sense to me. And these kids, they literally form hey, we're gonna become the Phantom Thieves of Heart, and we're going to try to save everyone. That's their entire ideal view of it is. And obviously, freaking adults are not gonna think about that.
Yeah.
The only people who think it's possible are like very immature. I won't say they're very immature, but immature minds that like they think they can save the entire world because they have these newfound powers. And in the very end of the game, they realize, like, oh, maybe we're just too naive. But sort of building on that sort of child fantasy and them making it possible is like one of the strongest things about the game. And I think that's what I really like the game for. Just sort of
more well done than those other franchises. I can name the specific franchise I know you have a lot of beef with.
Tamazaki.
Yeah, you were big on how they turned him in some of the later books.
Yeah, he thinks that if he dates someone that he's like married to them his whole life. Not even freaking adults thinking of that either. Like, that's such a distorted view of like how romance works.
I mean, that's kind of his flaw, right? Doesn't he have to overcome that, or does he just never overcome that?
He doesn't overcome that.
Okay, cool.
His entire goal is becoming like a freaking like a normie. And he just gives that up. It's like, no, romance is way more important.
The whole story just shifts from that, him trying to become normal, to just romance.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a great way to just tank the story.
Anyway, enough of that.
So, I think, fuck Alex.
Fuck out.